The perfect conjugation in Hebrew is often referred to as the suffix conjugation because we indicate who the subject is by changing suffixes. Where do suffixes go? Do suffixes go at the beginning or the end of a word? The end. That's right. If something goes at the beginning of a word, we call that a prefix. And we have a different conjugation that is the prefix conjugation. That's called the imperfect. This one's just called the perfect. Okay, so the perfect conjugation distinguishes the subject by endings, suffixes. These are what I call personal endings because the endings indicate person, first, second, or third person, as well as gender or number. So, I don't put it on your chart, but if you want to, you can put the little null symbol there because the third masculine singular ending is nothing. That is the ending. To choose not to add an ending is to make it third masculine singular. All right? Now, let me explain the boxes here. The boxes here represent three what in Hebrew? Yeah, any three consonants, right? Any three consonants. So, if I choose a consonant that occurs in this pattern, this sequence of letters, Pei, Kof, Dalet, the idea has to do with, what did I tell you? I didn't actually write it over and over again, so I can choose. We'll go with the shorter word, visit. Okay? This has to do with the notion of visiting. So if I have Pei, Kof, Dalet and no ending, who did the visiting here? He. Some masculine singular entity, right? So he visited. On the other hand, if I had a verb like shama with a different set of consonants in this order, that has to do with the idea of hearing. And if I have those three consonants with no ending, then who did the hearing? He did, right? So I could use a different set of three consonants, like kaf, tav, beit. That has to do with the idea of writing. And so if I had kathav with no personal ending, that would mean who wrote? He did. So you see, I can substitute any three sets of root letters here, and whatever those three root letters in that sequence mean by way of a semantic domain, some arena of meaning, then that's what that verb contributes. So notice that there are no specific root letters because any three root letters will do. And notice that I don't have any vowels under the three consonantal root letters. And the reason for this is that each of the 7 stems is going to have their own vowel pointing under their root letters. Okay? The cow stem is the first one we're going to learn. Then we're going to learn the nifal stem. Then we're going to learn the pl and the pual and so forth. Each of these stems has a perfect conjugation pattern that it can follow. And here's the good news. If you will learn the perfect personal endings right here, these will apply to the perfect conjugation pattern for every single stem among the 7 that we're going to learn. Okay? So when we get to the nifal chapter in chapter 25 and we learn the nifal perfect, you won't have to learn any new endings. All you have to do is learn which vowels go under roots 1 and 2. Okay? So learn these personal endings because they're going to help you for the rest of your life, if not for the rest of the year. Okay, yeah, so let me walk through this. All of these shavas that you're seeing here are silent. So you can go ahead and put SS under all of them, okay? And we'll talk about the reasons why in just a minute. Now let's look at the third feminine singular. By the way, if we just think about the word for horse that we learned, Sus with no ending was what? Yeah, which is masculine singular. Su-sa, with the comments hey, was what?
Feminine singular.
Feminine singular. Well, isn't it nice here that when I want to say she did something, I take the third masculine form, and I just add the comments hey to the end. Okay, and that means she did it. That's a familiar pattern, right? So this is good. It's always nice to try to, find things that are similar to what we already know. On the other hand, when we get to the second person and first person forms, we're not doing that. So I'm adding a comments hey here. A comments hey, if I were to transliterate that comments hey, by the way, how would I transliterate it? That's right. It's the A with the happy party hat, right? Okay. Is that a consonant or a vowel that I'm adding to my third root letter? It's a vowel. That's right. So I would call this a vocalic ending. Remember, endings that start with vowels or that are vowels are vocalic. Okay? Now let's take a look at this one. The second masculine singular form, if I want to say you man did something, I'm going to add this ending ta after a silent shava goes under the third root letter. Ta. How would I transliterate ta? It's a T and an A. Is the A a long or a short A? It's long, right? So it's got the line over it. Look at that. Does the personal ending I'm using, does it begin with a consonant or a vowel when I add it after root 3? Yeah, the ending begins with a consonant. I'm adding ta, and T is a consonant, right? So this is called a consonantal ending. Okay? So I can have vocalic endings and consonantal endings. Look at the second feminine singular. If I want to say you woman did something, I'm going to add a tav at the end, and I'm going to add a shava under it. So you tell me, is the shava under the tav a silent or a vocal shava? Half say vocal, half say silent. Do you remember? We learned that any shava at the end of the word is silent, right? Is that shava at the end of the word? Yes, that's a silent shava. But you may be going, well, Dr. Marshall, I remember that there were times when you said that if I have two shavas over here, the first one is always, reading from right to left, the first one is always what? Silent, and the second one is always vocal, right? And I was true. I was true to my word, and I still am true to my word. Something I never did for you was I never put the two shavas in the last two slots under the last two consonants. I've always told you if there's two shavas in the middle of the word, that means they're both in the middle. Then what I've told you is true. The first one's silent, the second one's vocal. But if you ever have two shavas at the end of a word, guess what? They're both silent. They're both silent. Okay? So what am I adding to root 3 here? I'm adding a tav with a silent shava. Do I have to write a silent shava here in my transliteration? No. So is the personal ending for second feminine singular you, a woman you, is it consonantal or vocalic? Consonantal. It is consonantal. There's no vowel here at all, right? Okay. And then if I want to say that I did something, I'm going to add T to the end of root 3. Silent shava will be under root 3. So this is transliterated tav with a kirik yod, which is an I and a party hat. Is that a vocalic or a consonantal ending for I did it? That's also consonantal, right? All right. If they did something, third common plural, it doesn't matter whether it's male or female they, what am I adding to the end of root 3? What is that vowel called? Shurik. Shurik, and it's transliterated with a U and a party hat. Is that a vocalic or a consonantal ending?
vocalic.
Vocalic. Good, thank you. So I'm adding a vowel to root 3. Notice that there's no shava. It's just silent shava under root 3. Why? Because remember, silent shavas in the middle of a word indicate a closed syllable, right? Silent shavas indicate that that consonant is closing a syllable, and then this consonant's opening a new one. But if I don't have a silent shava under root 3, what's going to lead my vowel?
The last consonant.
Yeah, the last consonant's going to slide over and be the lead vowel for it. Lead consonant, sorry. That's going to make a difference here. So, if I want to say y'all did something, I can speak of a male y'all or a female y'all doing it. It's tem and ten. Tem, ten. So how would I transliterate these? Tem, ten. All right? Is tem and ten, are those vocalic or consonantal endings? They are consonantal. Good. And then the final one, if I want to say we did something, I add the ending new. New, which is a noon and a shurik. Is that a vocalic or a consonantal ending?
Consonantal.
It's consonantal because it's the ending starts with an N, and an N is a consonant. Okay, so when I'm adding suffixes or personal endings, I can distinguish them in terms of whether they are consonantal or vocalic. And so let me go ahead and ask you to think about this. Where are all of my consonantal endings? Yeah, they're all below. All the consonantal endings are below third person, right? And above third person, all of the endings that I'm adding are vocalic, except for the 3MS. I'm not adding an ending at all, so it's neither consonantal nor vocalic, right? So because of this, if you were ever wanting to, practice doing your chart here, what could you do? Well, you start by mentally, you're drawing a line here between all the third-person forms and everything else. What's going to be true here? Every single one of these has what kind of a shava under root 3? Yep. Every single one. To a man. Okay? So that's just automatic. Everything below third person, silent shava, because the endings are consonantal endings. Over here, you'll never see a shava under root 3. Okay? Because you've got vocalic endings that steal root 3 away from closing the syllable that it was closing before. And we're going to see how that actually looks now as we look at the real forms of Pekad.